You know, I don't use the word hero very often, but I really do think you're the greatest American hero. Cheers, Ruth. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today is a super exciting day. We have an awesome recipe and I can't wait to get into it. But first up, if you're a new viewer, welcome to the channel. Smash that subscribe button and click that thumbs up because you know this video is gonna be a banger. So over the course of the last few weeks, I've got a ton of different comments from folks mentioning that whey and casein blend proteins tend to do a lot better than whey protein recipes. So today is your lucky day and my lucky day, because today we got our very first shipment of PE Science's whey and casein protein. Now, if you recall, I did two recipes on RJ's chocolate chip cookies and Pizookie, and both of them were a little bit of a bust. And I think a lot of folks can agree that they've had the same experience. The cookies have either been super dry or they've come out similar to a pancake texture. A bit unsatisfying, but to be fair, I definitely gave those recipes a little bit higher of a rating than I personally think should have actually been given. But what's done is done, and now our anabolic future is always looking bright. So today, we're calling it redemption time. Are you guys ready? Cupcake, you ready? All right. Well, today we're going full force with some chocolate chip cookies by none other than FDL. Let's go. All right, so first up, we've got 60 grams of a whey and casein protein blend. Next up, we've got 40 grams of a PB powder. Then we've got 20 grams of an almond flour. Next up, you've got 30 grams of an all-purpose flour. Next up, we've got 10 grams of a coconut flour. It's always island time. Then we've got 4 grams of a 0-calorie or low-calorie sweetener. Next up, we'll use 6 grams of a baking soda. So now that we've got all the dry ingredients into one bowl, we're gonna go ahead and mix this up so that way everything is mixed well together. So now that we've got all the dry ingredients mixed up, we'll go ahead and throw in the wet ingredients. First up, we've got 100 grams of a non-fat Greek yogurt. Then we've got 60 grams of a sugar-free maple syrup. Then we've got 2 large eggs. So now we've got the wet ingredients and the dry ingredients together. We're gonna go ahead and give this a good mix and then pop this into the freezer for 10 minutes. Guys, this is smelling absolutely delicious, and I can already tell that there's a tremendous difference in the consistency of this batter in comparison to RJ's chocolate chip cookies and also the Pizookie recipe. So it should be really interesting to see how this turns out, but we're gonna toss this in the freezer for about 10 minutes, and what that's gonna do is thicken this batter up. I'll see you guys in a quick few. So it's been about 10 minutes and the batter is definitely a lot thicker than before. So now we're gonna go ahead and toss in 30 grams of unsweetened chocolate chips. So the directions for the chocolate chips, we're gonna go ahead and just make sure we're folding them in. So now, once that's ready to go, we're gonna go ahead and hit this with some non-stick spray, grab our cookie scooper, and then go to town. So now that you got everything on your baking tray, you're gonna go ahead and pop this in the oven for 6 minutes. And that's an even hard 6 minutes at 350 degrees. These cookies are fresh out of the oven and they are looking absolutely amazing. They definitely look a lot more moist compared to the other chocolate chip cookies from RJ as well as the Pizookie recipe. So this should be really interesting to see how it actually turns out. But I'm definitely excited about these. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna set this aside, let it cool for 1 to 2 hours. But in the meantime, we're gonna go ahead and dive into the Oreo frosting. First up, we're gonna need 220 grams of a fat-free cream cheese. Then next up, you're gonna need 227 grams of a plain fat-free Greek yogurt. And then we'll take 60 grams of a whey casein protein mix. Next, you've got 8 grams of a low-calorie or 0-calorie sweetener. Finally, we've got 4 Oreo Thin crumbles. We are finally back after about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours, waiting for the cookies to cool off and then also allowing the frosting to chill in the fridge. But I gotta tell you, I am super excited to talk through these two recipes and tell you a little more about the anabolics, taste, and whether or not these are gonna satisfy your cravings. So without further ado, let's get into the three categories. Anabolics, taste, and craving. So for the first category, anabolics, let's take a look at the total calorie and macro breakdown. Keep in mind that this batch actually made a solid set of 12 cookies, but the total calorie and macro breakdown is 74 total calories with 2 grams of fat, 6 grams of carbs, and 7 grams of protein. Then as we step over to the Oreo frosting, the calorie and macro breakdown is 41 calories, 1 gram of fat, 1 gram of carb, and 6 grams of protein. But just keep in mind that the total calorie and macro breakdown is for 2 tablespoons worth. But since the chocolate chip cookies are the main attraction for today's recipe review, if we take a look at the total calorie and macro breakdown of these awesome protein chocolate chip cookies, compared to, let's say, for example, a Chips Ahoy cookie, we're looking at a pretty steep difference because in general, your average Chips Ahoy chocolate chip cookie is going to have roughly about 155 to 160 total calories. And when we dive a little deeper into the actual macros, we're looking at a pretty good difference when it comes to fats and carbs. So with 2 grams of fat compared to roughly about 8.5 grams of fat, and then also 6 grams of carbs compared to 19 or 20 grams of carbs, you're looking at a pretty good ratio. But on the other hand, protein's a little nominal if you ask me. 7 grams versus roughly about 2 grams of protein. So from an anabolic standpoint, we're gonna go ahead and rate this as a solid 8.5. However, I do think that it's important to note that the overall macro breakdown in terms of fats, carbs, and protein being relatively low, and quite honestly, about half of the actual calories of a Chips Ahoy cookie, you're looking at a pretty good recipe. And so this definitely gives you the opportunity to indulge, but then also really giving you the space to fill in other types of meals and recipes. Now for the moment you've all been waiting for, taste. If you haven't made this before, I'm sure you're wondering, how does this actually taste and how does it actually stack up to Remington James's chocolate chip cookies and Pizookie recipe? But on the other hand, for those of you who have actually already made these two recipes, you probably already know what I'm about to say. So first up, let's go ahead and take a look at the aesthetics. From first appearance, it might look like it has a little bit of a rubbery feel or texture to it, which I would totally agree with you guys, but from the back side of it, you can definitely tell that this really actually looks like a pretty solid cookie. Hey, that's not too bad. Take a look at that midsection cut. Oh yeah, it's looking pretty good. I do have to admit one thing. Now, the recipe actually states that you should put the cookies into the oven at 350 for 6 solid minutes, no longer than that. But after the 6-minute mark, I took out the cookies and I let it sit for a good half hour, and I definitely noticed that the cookies were definitely not cooked all the way. And I was a little hesitant about it, so I threw them back into the oven for 2 to 3 minutes, and they definitely came out a little more drier. And I will say though that for those of you who like cookies that are slightly undercooked, I will definitely tell you they're absolutely delicious. But these ones here, just based off of first appearance, are just slightly firmer. Definitely has a pretty solid texture and consistency feel. Let's go ahead and dive into a taste test. Cheers. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Guys, this is definitely a solid recipe. Great texture. In comparison to RJ's chocolate chip cookie recipe, I would highly recommend these. Now that we've tried the protein cookies, let's go ahead and dive into the Oreo frosting. It's looking pretty solid. Smells absolutely delicious. Look at this chocolatey goodness. All right, cheers boys. Oh, damn, that's unreal.
Unreal.
What up, Judy? That is unreal. I gotta put this down because I'm gonna end up eating it all. So from a taste standpoint, I'm gonna go ahead and rate the cookies as a solid 9. These are definitely absolutely great. They're 100 times stronger than Remington James's chocolate chip cookies, so I would completely scratch his recipe. I would definitely try this one out. I know that there are a ton more ingredients involved with this recipe, but I think that this is definitely well worth it. But something to keep in mind is I would definitely recommend you guys playing around with the recipe in terms of when you throw this into the oven for 350 for 6 solid minutes, you're gonna have to kind of play around with the timing. And this frosting, I can 100% tell you, I will say that this is a solid 10. At any time you guys ever need some type of frosting for a cake, this is very similar to something that you would find as a Pillsbury cream cheese frosting. But what really makes this recipe is the fact that you can really flex on the ingredients, right? So you have the core base, the yogurt, the cream cheese, the sweetener. Obviously you can add as much sweetener as you want, but in terms of using Oreo, you can use sprinkles. This definitely has a very, very good ability to be integrated across a lot of different types of flavors and also desserts. So whether you're trying to give your rice cake some life or some new flavor, definitely try this out. Now, is this gonna actually satisfy your craving? You bet your ass they will. The sweetness level on these cookies and combined with the frosting are completely unreal. I can't say it enough. The frosting really does taste like a Pillsbury cream cheese frosting that you pick up at the grocery store. Just remember that the longer you let the frosting sit in room temperature, it's gonna get less firm. So make sure to pop it in the fridge and keep it chilled and just take it out as you use it. But otherwise, we're gonna go ahead and rate this as a solid 10. Guys, we just covered Anabolic's taste and craving. We just had an Anabolic score of 8.5, a taste rating of 9, and a craving score of 10. Giving these Anabolic cookies by Flexible Dieting Lifestyle, total of 9.1. Well guys, that wraps up today's Anabolic recipe by the Flexible Dieting Lifestyle. I think it's safe to say that after this recipe, along with Domino's protein pizza, this guy definitely has his recipes down to a science. But guys, just a couple of points if you decide to make this recipe. For the frosting, make sure you keep the frosting in the fridge so that the frosting thickens, because the longer that you keep it out, the more it's gonna start to become runny and just not really hold and have the structure that you would like it to have. And then for the protein cookies, make sure you keep within the 6-minute mark. But I think a lot of us would appreciate this recipe even when the cookies are slightly undercooked. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, seeing a fresh take on some chocolate chip cookies. From a redemption standpoint, I definitely think we got the leg up. So give this recipe a shot. So if you enjoyed the video and liked what you heard, give this video a big fat thumbs up. It really helps the channel to grow and get more folks like yourself tuned in. The bigger we can grow, the more recommendations, ideas, and flavors that we can all stir up together so that we can all get one step closer to our anabolic goals. And if you're a new viewer, smash that subscribe button. What are you waiting for? But otherwise, stay safe, stay swole. I'll see you next time. Peace.